Take off your wet clothes. Now, in front of me. The American sergeant points at Michiko's soaked uniform. Rain drips from the tent canvas. 16 Japanese women stand frozen in mud. None of them move. But the sergeant isn't reaching for them. He's pointing at something behind him, a stack of folded blankets, gray wool, dry. Why isn't he stepping forward? Michiko's hands won't stop shaking, not from cold. From what she knows is coming, every woman in this tent knows. The propaganda was specific, detailed, illustrated. America jin wa josei o dore ni suru, saigo no fukushu wa karada de okonao. Americans enslave women. The final revenge is taken with the body. Over 12,000 Japanese military women served by 1945. Fewer than 300 were captured alive. Most chose grenades. Michiko chose surrender because her legs were shattered by shrapnel and she couldn't reach her weapon in time. Now she wishes she had crawled faster. Beside her, Noriko, 19, signals operator, youngest in the group, starts crying. Silent tears, no sound. Sound draws attention. Attention draws hands. The rain hammers harder. Canvas flaps. The sergeant's boots squelch in mud as he shifts his weight. Michiko tries to calculate. 16 women, 8 American soldiers visible. If they fight back, they die faster. If they comply, they might survive long enough for what? The sergeant speaks again. His voice is flat. Military. Turn around. Michiko's stomach drops. This is it. They want them facing away. Easier that way. Less resistance. She's heard the stories. The comfort women in Nanking, the nurses in Manila. Facing away means you don't see it coming. But then something happens that makes no sense. The sergeant turns around first, his back to them, hands at his sides, facing the tent wall. All personnel. Face the wall. Now. The other American soldiers hesitate. One of them, young, maybe 22, medic armband on his sleeve, doesn't move. His jaw tightens. His eyes stay on the Japanese women. Private Morrison, that's an order. Morrison's hands flex. Open. Closed. Open. He turns slowly, reluctantly, like he's fighting something inside himself. Now all 8 Americans face the wall. Michiko doesn't understand. This isn't protocol. This isn't what the training said. This isn't what the posters showed. Kore wa wanada. This is a trap. Behind her, Noriko whispers, "What are they doing?" Michiko has no answer, because the sergeant is pointing at the blankets again. And what comes next? What comes next is a wool blanket hitting the mud at Michiko's feet. The sergeant still faces the wall, his arm extended backward. Blind throw. Pick it up. Wrap yourself. Remove wet clothing underneath. No one is looking. His Japanese is broken. Terrible accent. But the words are clear. Michiko stares at the blanket. Gray wool. Dry. Clean. She doesn't pick it up. Naze karera wa watashi tachi ni mufu o atairu no. Kurushimi no mae no yasashisa. Why are they giving us blankets? Kindness before suffering? 67% of Japanese military women believed American POW camps were execution facilities. The remaining 33% believed they were something worse. Michiko is in the second group. Beside her, Takara, 26, field medic, 3 years on the front, slowly bends down. Her hands tremble as she picks up a blanket. "Don't," Michiko hisses. Takara wraps the blanket around her shoulders. Under the wool, her fingers start unbuttoning her soaked jacket. Michiko watches the Americans. All 8 still face the wall. Morrison's shoulders are tense, his fists clenched. He still hasn't relaxed. Something about Morrison bothers her. The way he looked at them, not with hunger, with something else. Recognition? Pain? Loop. Why does Morrison look like that? He seems familiar with fear he shouldn't know. Steam rises from somewhere behind a canvas partition. The smell of something strange cuts through the rain and mud. Soap, harsh, chemical, lye. Michiko's throat tightens. Lye means cleaning. Cleaning means preparation. Preparation means... Medical processing in 10 minutes, the sergeant announces. All prisoners will receive standard intake examination per Geneva Protocol, Article 12. This includes decontamination. Decontamination, the word hangs in the air. Joken tsuki no joken. Karera wa watashitachi okire nishite kara korosu. Conditional terms. They clean us before they kill us. Noriko is crying harder now. Still silent, still trained. Takara has stripped to her undergarments beneath the blanket. Her wet uniform lies in the mud. She's shivering less. But her eyes are dead, waiting. The canvas partition at the back of the tent ripples. Someone is behind it, moving, preparing. The sergeant finally turns around. His face is expressionless, military neutral, unreadable. When you are wrapped, proceed through the partition, one at a time. He steps aside. Behind the canvas, shadows move, the sound of water, steam curling upward. Michiko clutches her blanket, unwrapped, still soaked. Because what she sees through the gap in the canvas, is a woman, American, nurse's uniform, Red Cross armband, holding a towel. No men behind the partition, none. Michiko's brain stalls. This doesn't match. Nothing matches. Josei? Naze Josei ga iru? Wana no atarashi kata? Women? Why women? A new kind of trap? Takara is first through the canvas. Michiko watches her disappear, listens for screams, nothing, just the sound of water, splashing, steam hissing. The smell of soap gets stronger. 2 minutes pass. 3. Takara doesn't scream. Next, the American nurse calls out. Her voice is calm, almost gentle. Noriko goes, shaking so hard the blanket nearly falls off, still no screams. The U.S. Army Nurse Corps deployed 59,000 nurses by 1945. 16 died from enemy fire. 201 total. Deaths. They served on front lines, field hospitals, POW processing centers. Michiko didn't know nurses existed in armies. Japanese military women were auxiliaries, support, not uniformed, not protected. Another 2 minutes. Noriko still alive. The water sounds continue. Michiko finally moves toward the partition. Her shattered legs drag. Shrapnel fragments shift under skin with each step. She pushes through the canvas and stops. Metal drums, 4 of them, filled with heated water, steam rising. American nurses, 3 of them, standing beside stacks of towels, clean towels, white. No restraints, no tables, no instruments. One nurse approaches, young, maybe 25. Dark hair pinned under her cap. Her name tag reads, Lieutenant Reyes. I speak some Japanese, Reyes says slowly. Sukoshi Nihongo o hanasemasu. Her accent is terrible, but the words, the effort. Why would she learn Japanese? Loop, how does Reyes know Japanese? Americans don't learn enemy languages for prisoners they plan to kill. Michiko stands frozen, blanket clutched to her chest. Reyes gestures toward the water drums. Wash. Medical examination after, for health. Only health. Kenko no time dake, for health only. Michiko's hands tighten on the blanket. In the corner, Takara sits wrapped in a clean towel. Dry, alive, untouched. Her eyes are wide, confused, but there's no blood, no bruises, no marks. Karera wa watashitachi o arata, tada arata dake. They washed us, just washed us. Noriko emerges from behind a screen, also wrapped, also untouched. She looks at Michiko with an expression Michiko has never seen on her face. Hope. Confused, terrified hope. Reyes holds out a towel. Please, the water is warm. Michiko takes the towel. And what happens next? What happens next is the first warm water Michiko has felt in 7 months. It hits her shoulders, and she gasps, not from pain, from sensation. She'd forgotten what warmth felt like. The soap burns slightly, lye-based, harsh, but it's removing layers of dirt, blood, infection risk. Her shattered legs throb as she stands in the metal drum. Reyes hands her a cloth, says nothing, just waits. Naze karera wa watashi tachi o tasuketeru no? Why are they helping us? 94% of Japanese military personnel expected immediate execution upon capture. Training films showed American soldiers as demons, literal demons, red-faced, fanged. Reyes has freckles. A small scar on her chin, human. After the wash, Michiko is guided behind another screen. Clean clothes wait. American military issue, but women's sizes. How did they have women's sizes? A female doctor enters, older, maybe 40, gray streaks in her hair, captain's bars on her collar, name tag, Dr. Ellison. "I need to examine you," Ellison says through a translator, another nurse holding a clipboard, "for injuries, infections, nothing else." Michiko flinches when Ellison reaches toward her legs. Ellison stops immediately, pulls her hands back, visible, open. Then she does something Michiko doesn't expect. She kneels, slowly, in the mud and water on the floor. Her uniform gets wet. She doesn't seem to care. "Anata wa anzen desu." You are safe. 3 words, in Japanese, from an American officer, kneeling. The propaganda never showed this. The training never prepared for this. The posters never depicted an enemy officer kneeling in mud, ruining her uniform just to be at eye level. Michiko's throat closes. "Kore wa uso da. Uso de nakereba naranai." This is a lie. It has to be a lie. But Ellison's eyes hold steady, patient, no cruelty behind them, no hunger, just tired. She looks tired, like someone who's done this 100 times, who will do it 100 more. "Your legs," Ellison says softly. "The shrapnel. I can remove it, but I need to examine first. May I?" "May I?" Asking permission. From a prisoner. From an enemy. Michiko nods, small, barely visible. Ellison's hands are gentle, clinical, professional. She probes the wounds, notes something on the clipboard, murmurs to the translator. "Surgery tomorrow. We'll remove the fragments. You'll walk again." Walk again. Michiko hasn't walked without pain in 3 months, and now an enemy is promising, but then Ellison says something else, and everything changes. "We need your measurements," Ellison says, "for the surgical gown." A measuring tape appears, yellow, cloth, the same kind tailors use. Michiko's blood goes cold. "Karera wa watashitachi no kachi o hakate iru dori ichiba no yuni." They're measuring our worth. Like a slave market. The propaganda was specific about this. Americans measure women before selling them. Height determines price. Weight determines labor capacity. Bust determines... She can't finish the thought. Ellison holds the tape loosely, non-threatening. But Michiko sees only what she was trained to see. Standard medical intake, Ellison continues, 14 points. Height, weight, chest circumference for bandaging requirements. Geneva Protocol Article 12 mandates accurate records. The translator relays this. Michiko doesn't hear the words. She hears the tape clicking. Behind her, Noriko is already being measured by a nurse. Height, weight, chest, numbers written down. Noriko's face is blank, waiting for the auction. Michiko's turn. She stands on the scale, metal cold under bare feet. "Watashi wa ikura no kachi ga aru no." How much am I worth? 47 minutes. That's the average time for U.S. POW medical intake per prisoner. 14 data points. 0 variants permitted. Every measurement documented, filed, preserved, for evidence, in case of war crimes tribunals, against Americans who violated protocol. Michiko doesn't know this. She knows only that numbers are being written next to her name. The tape wraps around her chest. Over the clean clothing, professional, clinical. 32 inches, the nurse murmurs. Writes it down. Michiko waits for the price tag, for the announcement, for hands reaching. Nothing. The nurse moves to the next measurement, arm length, for proper IV placement during surgery. Morrison, the soldier who hesitated, appears briefly in the medical area, drops off supplies. His eyes flick to the Japanese women being measured, and Michiko sees it again. That expression. Not hunger, not cruelty. Grief. Answer, Morrison's sister was a nurse in the Philippines, captured by Japanese forces. She didn't survive. He knows exactly what these women expected because his sister experienced what they feared from the other side. He turns away quickly, leaves. Ellison finishes the measurements, closes the clipboard. Surgery is scheduled for 0600 tomorrow. You'll receive anesthesia, full surgical protocol, recovery time estimated at 6 weeks. Anesthesia, not consciousness during cutting, full protocol, not field amputation, 6 weeks, which means they expect her to be alive in 6 weeks. But then a nurse brings in a tray, and on the tray sits a syringe, glass barrel, metal needle, clear liquid inside. Michiko stops breathing. Kore ga owari da, karera wa watashi tachi ni yamai o irete iru. This is the end. They're putting disease inside us. The propaganda films showed exactly this. American doctors injecting captured Japanese with experimental plagues, biological weapons, slow death over days. The narrator's voice echoed, "They test their poisons on our soldiers." Noriko sees the syringe and faints, hits the floor before anyone can catch her. A nurse rushes to help, smelling salts. Noriko's eyes flutter open. She sees the syringe still on the tray and starts hyperventilating. Tuberculosis screening, Ellison says calmly. Standard procedure. All POWs, all American military personnel, everyone receives this. The translator repeats it. The words don't land. Naz karera wa watashi tachi o sukuri ningu suru no korosu mae ni? Why screen us before killing us? Tuberculosis killed 1.5 million people in 1945. The U.S. military mandated screening for all personnel, prisoners and captors alike. Early detection reduced camp infection rates by 89%. Michiko doesn't know these numbers. She knows only that a needle is about to enter her arm. Ellison picks up the syringe, examines it against the light, then does something completely unexpected. She rolls up her own sleeve. "Watch," Ellison says. She swabs her own forearm with alcohol. The smell cuts through the tent, sharp, clinical. Then she inserts the needle into her own skin. A tiny amount of liquid, a small bump forms beneath the surface. "Tuberculin," Ellison says. "If I had TB, this spot would swell within 48 hours. I don't. It won't." She shows her arm to Michiko, to Noriko, to Takara, the small mark, red, harmless. "Kanojo wa jibun ni chushashita, onaji eki, onaji hari." She injected herself, same liquid, same needle. Michiko's hands are shaking, but something inside her propaganda conditioning, a hairline crack, widens. Same procedure, same substance, no harm. Ellison holds up a fresh needle, sterile, packaged. "May I?" That word again, may I. Permission, from a captor. Michiko extends her arm, slowly, every muscle screaming to pull back. The alcohol is cold, the needle, brief pressure, then nothing. A small bump under her skin, identical to Ellison's. She waits for the burning, the pain, the onset of disease. Nothing comes, just the small red mark. "Kanojo wa uso o sukanakata." She didn't lie, and with that realization, everything Michiko believed starts collapsing. That night, Michiko lies on a cot, clean sheets, wool blanket, the same gray wool from the tent. She can't sleep. The ceiling is canvas. Rain patters against it, soft, almost peaceful. "Naz watashi wa ikita iru no?" Why am I alive? Her arm still shows the small red mark. The TB test. The same test Ellison gave herself first. The same test that wasn't poison, wasn't biological warfare, wasn't the weapon the propaganda promised. Beside her, Noriko whispers in the dark, "They lied." Michiko turns her head. "Who?" "Everyone. Our officers, the training films, the posters." "Karera wa subete ni tsuite uso o tsuita." They lied about everything. 67% of Japanese military personnel genuinely believed American POW camps were death facilities. Post-capture surveys showed 94% changed this belief within 72 hours. Michiko is at hour 46. Maybe this is the trap, Takara says from 2 cots over. Her voice is hollow, empty. Maybe they're being kind first, breaking us down, making us trust them before... Before what? Noriko interrupts. They had us alone, vulnerable, wet clothes. They had every opportunity. They turned around. Silence. The rain intensifies. Canvas sags with accumulated water. A nurse comes through the barracks, American, young, carrying extra blankets. She drapes one over Noriko without being asked, continues down the row. Naz? Why? Michiko finally speaks. Reyes, the nurse who spoke Japanese. How did she learn? Answer. Reyes's brother was killed at Wake Island. First wave of the war. She could have hated. Instead, she enrolled in language courses, wanted to understand. Not to forgive, to understand. It took her 2 years. She's still not fluent, but she tries. The answer comes days later, through conversations, through small moments. Michiko asks Reyes directly during a medication round. My brother died at Wake Island, Reyes says. I decided that if I was going to spend the rest of this war dealing with people who killed him, I should at least understand their language. Michiko stares. You don't hate us? Reyes is quiet for a long moment. I did, for almost a year. Then I realized hate was making me worse at my job, and my job is keeping people alive. The words settle into Michiko, like shrapnel. Uncomfortable, lodged. Nikushimi wa kanojo o yowakushita. Dakara kanojo wa yameta. Hate made her weaker, so she stopped. Morning comes, and with it, something Michiko never expected. Something Michiko never expected. Doubt about everything she fought for. It starts at 2 a.m. The barracks silent except for breathing. 16 women, all alive, all untouched. Michiko stares at her hands, the same hands that assembled signals equipment for 3 years, the same hands that coded messages sending soldiers to die. Watashi tachi wa nani no tame ni tatakata no? What did we fight for? The question burns in her chest. Beside her, Takara is awake too. Michiko can tell by her breathing. Are you asleep? No, Takara whispers. What are you thinking about? Long pause. When Takara speaks, her voice is hollow. The comfort stations. Michiko's stomach drops. Watashi tachi no gawa ga shita koto. What our side did. 83% of Japanese military personnel received daily anti-American propaganda. Average exposure, 2.3 hours per day. Total brainwashing investment per soldier, estimated 1,400 hours over their service. They never received a single hour of education about what their own army did to captured women. I saw one, Takara continues, in Manila. I was delivering medical supplies. I walked past the building. I heard... She stops. Michiko doesn't ask what she heard. She can imagine. Watashi tachi wa nani wo shiteta no? What were we doing? We were told Americans were monsters, Noriko whispers from her cot. She's awake, too. That they would do to us what... She stops. The sentence finishes itself in the silence. What we did to them. Michiko's throat burns, hot, tight. The wet uniform jacket sits folded under her cot. The same jacket she wore when she surrendered. The same jacket she clutched in terror when the sergeant said, "Take off your wet clothes." She can't throw it away, can't wear it, can't look at it. Watashi tachi wa tekideshita, demo karera wa watashi tachi o ningen toshite atsukata. We were enemies, but they treated us like humans. Takara voices what they're all thinking. Were we the bad ones? The question has no answer, not tonight. The rain continues, canvas sags. Somewhere in the distance a truck engine rumbles, supplies arriving. More blankets, more food, more medical equipment, for prisoners, enemy prisoners. Michiko thinks about the measuring tape, the TB test, the surgery scheduled tomorrow. They're going to remove the shrapnel from her legs. They're going to help her walk again. Why? The question follows her into uneasy sleep. Morning comes. And with it, a choice. A choice Michiko didn't know she had. 6 months after capture. The war is over. Japan has surrendered. The camps are processing repatriations. But Sergeant Miller stands at the barracks entrance with a clipboard. "You can go home," he says through a translator, "or you can stay and help." Tetsudao? Nani-o? Help? With what? Medical support. The hospitals are overwhelmed. American wounded, Japanese wounded, civilians. We need translators, assistants, anyone with medical training. He looks directly at Takara, at Noriko, at Michiko, who now walks without pain. The surgery worked. 6 weeks of recovery, just as Ellison promised. "You'd be paid," Miller continues, "same wages as American civilian contractors. Your choice. No pressure." Choice. Michiko had forgotten what that word meant. 2,100 Japanese POWs volunteered for Allied medical support roles by late 1945. Retention rate, 89%. 0 defections. Noriko signs up first, hands shaking, eyes determined. "I want to be a nurse," she says. "A real one, like Rhea's." Takara hesitates. Her guilt about the comfort station still haunts her, but she picks up the pen. "Maybe this is how I fix it," she murmurs, "by helping everyone, including—" She doesn't finish. She doesn't have to. "Watashi wa teki o taskeru koto ga dekiru, sore wa watashi o nani ni suru no?" I can help the enemy. What does that make me? Michiko stares at the clipboard, at the blank line where her name would go. Her wet uniform jacket, the one she clutched in terror, sits in the corner of the barracks. She hasn't touched it in months, but she hasn't thrown it away either. "What happens to that?" she asks, pointing at the jacket. Miller shrugs. "Whatever you want. Some prisoners donate their uniforms. There's a collection. For a museum, they say. For history." For history? Michiko walks to the jacket, picks it up. The wool is still stiff with old mud, old rain, old fear. She carries it to Miller. "Donate it," she says, and write on the label, "What happens when enemies become patients, 1945. Miller takes the jacket, notes something on his clipboard. "And your name? On the volunteer list?" Michiko picks up the pen, writes her name. The characters feel foreign, Japanese identity on an American document. "Watashi wa teki deshita, ima wa isha no tasukeo suru." I was the enemy. Now I help doctors. October 1946. Michiko isn't in a camp anymore. She's somewhere no one expected, somewhere no one expected. A hospital in Tokyo, 1947. The city is rebuilding, rubble cleared, roads repaved, and in a converted warehouse, Michiko wears white, not a patient, a nurse. She walks the ward, 40 beds, half American, half Japanese, a few Korean, without a limp. Her legs carry her easily now, 12 surgeries she's assisted with this month alone. Burns, amputations, shrapnel removal. She knows shrapnel intimately. "Watashi wa teki deshita, ima wa kanja o iashimasu." I was the enemy. Now I heal patients. In a glass case near the hospital entrance sits a wet uniform jacket, faded, stiff. A plaque beneath reads, "When enemies became patients, 1945. Visitors stop, read, some cry, some walk away in silence. Michiko passes it every morning, doesn't stop. The story is behind her now. By 1950, 340 former Japanese POWs worked in Allied-supported hospitals across Japan. Michiko trained 12 nurses herself, including Noriko, who now runs a clinic in Osaka. Takara volunteers at a refugee center, helps women, all women, especially those who survived what she once saw in Manila. "Watashi tachi wakako o keshikenai, demo mirai o kaeru koto wa dekiru." We cannot erase the past, but we can change the future. A letter arrived last month from Dr. Ellison, an invitation, medical school in America, scholarship, full funding. Michiko hasn't decided yet. She stands at the window now, Tokyo sunset, orange light through dusty glass. The city hums with reconstruction. "Take off your wet clothes, in front of me." She remembers those words, remembers the terror, remembers expecting the worst. She received blankets instead, Warm water, surgery, a choice. Saisho no yasashisa wa watashi o kawashita. Sono ato no subete ga watashi o naoshita. The first kindness broke me. Everything after healed me. The hospital intercom crackles. New patients arriving. Burns from a construction accident. Michiko straightens her white uniform, walks toward the intake area. Behind her, through the glass case, the wet jacket remains. Mute witness. Permanent reminder. A young nurse, new, nervous, Japanese, sees the jacket for the first time, reads the plaque. "What does it mean?" she asks Michiko. "When enemies became patients?" Michiko pauses, considers the question. It means that in war, the smallest choices, blankets, protocol, language learned, can mean the difference between enemy and human. She smiles, small, real. "Now come, we have patients to save." Anata wa anzen desu. You are safe. 3 words, in any language, in every language, the only words that ever mattered.